Hello everyone and welcome to Stefan's podcast, the only podcast for everything Japanese news, Japanese myths and scary Japanese stories. We have got some great stories for you today, so let's jump straight into them. Our first story comes from a man who used to live in Fukushima Prefecture. He was living with his grandparents and had some very scary things happen to him. So let's jump straight into the story. Now this story is just titled The Mountain Road. It has of course been translated from Japanese into English for your listening pleasure by me, and what I try and do when I translate the stuff, I condense it down and make it into a much better story. So let's jump straight into it. This happened over 20 years ago in Fukushima Prefecture. I was staying at my grandfather's house in the mountains while attending a driving school in the city. Every night I rode my motorbike home along a narrow mountain road. It took about 30 minutes and had no street lights, only my headlight lit the winding roads. One night in late October, I finished class around 9 p.m. I bought 2 bento boxes and started the ride home. They smelled delicious. The road was steep, full of sharp curves and very dark. Halfway up the mountain, I heard a tree shaking violently. I stopped and saw a large shadow eating nuts in the darkness. It was much bigger than a raccoon or a weasel, and suddenly something fell from the tree with a loud crash. I panicked and opened up the throttle fully. As I rode, I heard heavy footsteps behind me crunching loudly on the falling leaves. The steps were far apart and too big to be something of a small animal. They kept getting closer. The hill was steep and my scooter could barely reach 40 kilometers an hour. I was terrified. Just as the road finally leveled out, the footsteps suddenly started to speed up too. I reached my grandfather's house safely and barely slept that night. The next morning, I told my grandparents what happened. Calmly, my grandfather said, "You know, there have been a lot of bears around here lately." He showed me a broken bear trap near the house that day. Later, I went back to the same spot on the road where I saw the tree break. A large tree branch, thick enough to hold a person, was freshly broken. That's when I knew. If I'd slowed down that night, I would have been caught by the bear in the darkness. It was more terrifying than any ghost story that I'd ever read or ever seen. Later, a street light was installed on that road, and bear control measures were put in place all over the place. Traps, you name it. Traps, hunters, you name it. And during another visit though, I even saw a bear walk past my grandfather's house, visible through the thin paper sliding doors. If it had reached through, it would have absolutely have got me, but luckily it didn't hear or see me. And that is the end of my tale. Ooh, that is a scary story. There have been a lot of bear attacks in Japan recently. So much so that Japan have actually made their kanji of the year to be bear, which I have to say is a little bit boring if you ask me. I think of all the kanjis they could have had, just having bears, a bit like, yeah, really? Yeah, we get it, we've had a lot of bear attacks recently, but not the best kanji of the year. But still, very nice story. I really like that. Of course, I translated into Japanese and condensed it down, so some small details I have to change because the translations don't always make sense, but a true story nonetheless for you. But coming up for you, we've got another story, and this is based on the Japanese myth of the Kowai. Now, last week, Kowai was our Japanese yokai of the week, and what that was, if you didn't see it, a Kowai is a Japanese myth which is a sort of scavenger monster, and it is constantly hungry. It looks very similar to a human, but it's very deformed. It has like fox-like features in its face, has long claws, razor-sharp teeth, and loves to eat. It loves to eat so much that it is always constantly hungry. It is never satisfied. And what will normally happen, it will go and attack food vendors late at night, or it will attack restaurant owners late at night and try and steal their food. It doesn't normally hunt people, it's normally just looking for scraps of food, but it is still scary nonetheless. And I decided to write a short story about it, as I do every week, and this story is written and made completely by yours truly, and this is titled The Kowai by the River. As I closed up the food stall for the night, I looked into her, my siren, the black flowing Fukuoka River. On most nights, it calls to me. pulling me closer. Its swan song to eternity is a little duller tonight. Even on the worst nights I dare not listen, for I know its icy kiss. Business tonight had been better than ever. I had never seen such a long line of customers. It was so busy I couldn't believe my watch. 2:54 a.m. Almost the witching hour. Everything had been cleaned and I was almost packed up and nearly on my way home to count the largest stack of cash I had ever made in a single night. But before I could do that, I saw the shadow of a man stumbling around the front of the store. I thought it was another drunk salaryman looking for something to sober him up before he calls it quits for the night. I walked around the front and called out to him, "My apologies, sir, I'm closed for the night." But the figure didn't leave. It began pulling at the stall looking for a way in. Was I being robbed? You see, a few months ago, the Yakuza tried to shake me down for a few thousand yen a month. I told them to fuck off. They didn't take too kindly to that. As they scuffled with me, a policeman walking past shouted at us, scaring them away. I'd been waiting for their return. Was this it? Were they finally back for their gold or flesh? Since that night, I kept a small knife inside my money belt. I wasn't going to be shaken down by a bunch of thugs with missing fingers and the drawings of children's on their bodies. I shouted out to the figure, "Hey, are you deaf? We're closed. Get out of here." What looked back at me with ruby red eyes was no gangster. I don't even think it was human, at least not anymore. It screamed out like a dying fox. Its teeth were as long as tigers and its claws no less ferocious. I had heard tales from other food vendors about a beast with no name. They simply called it the Kowai. The Gaijin, they had another word for it. They called it scary. I thought these had been fairy tales told to pass the time between cold war vendors on a slow night. The beast, though, dove over the counter and dived for the trash can, frantically eating the waste inside. Rotting meat and discarding vegetables went flying all over my freshly cleaned stool. I screamed at the beast to leave my stall, but it took no notice. My life, it was in that stall. If it were damaged, my son would go without heating and books. Now, I wish I could say that that had never happened before, but some winter nights could be rough for business. I pulled my knife from my belt and slashed at the beast. Drawing blood from its back, it turned and hacked at me. I felt its weight pass through my belly. I looked down, expecting the worst. Thankfully, my money belt had been full. It saved me. On any other night, its claws would have ripped right through me. I lunged again with my knife and gashed open the beast's chest. It stumbled back and fell out of the stall. I went to chase after it, but it was too fast. It ran down the street, leaving a trail of dark blood in its wake. I let the beast go. I knew it wouldn't be back. It would move on, looking for its next meal. If all the tales were true, the demon would never be full. It would spend its nights scavenging, never satisfied, eternally hungry. You see, for the greed of man never dies. I picked up the writ bills that had escaped my belt, a little tape, and they would be good as new. As I finally got home around 6 a.m, my boy was awake. He asked me how the night was. As I laid what was left of my money belt on the kitchen table, I simply said one word to him in response. Kowai. And that was the story written by me. I have to say, I enjoyed writing that one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully the story was good. And I did justice to the original Japanese myth of the Kowai. I think I did pretty good. I stuck pretty closely to the description of the Kowai. So hopefully you enjoyed the story. And if nothing less, you can give me a subscribe for liking it if you haven't got that far. And now it's time for our new yokai of the week. This one is titled the Yajo, and this is a Japanese myth that goes back to about 200-300 years ago. And they're quite an interesting sort of myth that I found online. and I'll just read out what their description offers to you. So a Yajo are aquatic monsters that resemble a human woman and a kappa, so sort of something that comes in between. They have long hair, bright red lips, and on here it's described as slender eyes. I don't know how you can have slender eyes, but apparently you can. Their bodies are covered in blue scales like a fish or a snake's, and they generally have webbed hands and feet. They only have 3 fingers and 3 toes on each of their feet and hands, and apparently they are very, very smelly. They are extremely smelly, and if you manage to get into a fight with them, this smell will then pass on to you. Now, for most creatures, this isn't a bad thing because obviously you'll do your best to stay away from them, and normally if a Japanese myth attacks you, 9 out of 10 times you die. However, this creature is a little bit different. This creature absolutely loves to wrestle. It doesn't want to kill you, it just wants to wrestle with you. Now, the scary thing about that is if you actually manage to throw this beast off you, they will just keep coming back and keep trying to wrestle with you. Now, this creature is said to originate from Kyushu, and the only sort of known record from this is from 1740, and the short story that comes with this is the story of a man who tried to wrestle with one of these creatures. He was out in the forest one day and this creature jumped out with him and started to wrestle with him. Now, luckily, he managed to survive the ordeal because he was a very strong and muscly, powerfully man. He eventually managed to shake off the creature, got it to run away from him, but he was so tired he collapsed in exhaustion. Now, when he collapsed in exhaustion, he was found by a few settlers nearby. They managed to take him back to a local inn, they gave him medicine and gave him food. Everything was great, apart from he absolutely stank. And every single person in that inn didn't want to be with him, and they wanted to stay as far away from him as humanly possible. So that is a pretty good story. I have written a short story off of that story, which will be coming next week. So make sure you subscribe and tune in for next week's episode. And now we are into our Japanese news of the week. So our first Japanese news story comes from Ken Watanabe, would you believe it? So, if you don't know, Ken Watanabe is the actor who is in Last Samurai. His roles are pretty good. He's probably arguably Japan's biggest or best actor, I would certainly say. He's certainly up there with anyone else I could name. And he has had a cafe which he's kept open for quite some time. If you are familiar with Abroad in Japan, or if you've read Abroad in Japan's book, he even mentions about going to this cafe where he met Ken Watanabe. And he opened this to try and give some people a place to sit and have a coffee and relax after the Fukushima disasters, and also to give some people some employment. Now, unfortunately, he is closing this cafe for the first time in 15 years. But it's been really good to see that he kept this open for 15 years. I mean, trying to keep a cafe open anywhere now is just such difficult business, and especially in a remote area, it's got to be tough. And I feel like this is a good time for him to close it. 15 years on since the disaster, I think people have started to move on, started to get life back to a little bit of normal. So it's really good to see that he kept it open for that long. It is a shame. I would have liked to have gone and see that cafe, but hey, cafe's closed. We can never do it. You can never go. And this is actually a bigger news story in Japan than you would think, because that cafe is, I believe, quite liked by most people in Japan. And speaking of things that most people might like or might not like in Japan, this is a bullet train has been transformed into a moving disco. I have to say, the photos of this make the place look absolutely fucking shit. I don't think I would enjoy going to this disco, but there we go. JR Central on Friday held a disco event in a Tokaido bullet train car, complete with a dance floor with a DJ, and not any DJ. This was DJ Kowai of the Japanese pop group TFG, performing alongside dancing passengers. Now, only there wasn't many people who actually got to go to this event. In the news story that I looked at, I think it was only 32 passengers and some DJ. Feels a bit like going to a village disco for elderly people, but people look like they've had a nice time. I'm looking at the pictures here, and it looks like an elderly school disco, I have to say. Doesn't look fun. I mean, even if you've been on a bullet train, there is not enough space to really dance around. And also, they don't say if there's a bar on board. And let me tell you this. If I'm going to something like that, some sort of disco on a train with only 30 people, I'm going to need some alcohol, and I am going to need a lot of it. But would you like to go to like a disco on a train? I don't think I would. I think I would be put off from that. A pub on a train? Now that sounds quite nice. That sounds right up my street. I'll do that very, very nicely. Thank you. But just 32 people, a 32 people disco? Yeah, I don't know. I think you'd be better off turning it into like a karaoke booth. That's a fun idea. That's way better than a like disco. I think most people could get behind that. And the nice thing about it, you think about it, you get on the train, you have a few drinks, and then it takes you to your destination. You get to sing a little bit of karaoke. Now that, baby, is the true Japan experience that I am after, and I think most people would be after that. So our next news story is good news for the Japanese people. Ooh, kind of good news. I'm not sure. Let me read you the story, and you tell me what you think. So Japan is expected to lower its passport cost. So currently, it's not particularly cheap to get a passport in Japan. So at the moment, the 10-year passport that used to be 16,000 yen, which is pretty pricey for a passport. In the UK, I think they're only about 20-30 pounds. So that's about, trying to do the math in my head quickly. We'll call it let's call it 5,000 yen. It's about 5,000 yen for a brand new 10-year passport. But in Japan, it's 16,000. That is going to go down to 9,000 yen. And for those who want the 5-year passport, it is going to cost about 4,500 yen. So pretty cheap for a 5-year passport. Why Japan seem to have this obsession with renewing everything so early? Driving licenses is one. If you have a driving license in Japan, you have to renew it every 3 years for the first 2 or 3 driving license that you have. Once you get, I think it's 6 or 5 years without an accident, you can have a little bit of a longer driving license where you don't have to keep renewing it all the time. But it's ridiculous. But the only thing is, Japan have the strongest passport in the world, other than I think maybe Singapore, where they have visa-free access into like 193 places, somewhere absolutely ridiculous. But at the moment, the yen is so diabolically low that I can't see them doing much traveling at all. In fact, most people who I talk to for the new year, I think I only know one person who is traveling abroad for the new year, and they're going to the UK and France, and I think they should have a lovely time. I wish them the best on their trip. But everyone else is staying put in Japan because the reason why most people have told me it's just too expensive at the moment. The yen is absolutely diabolical, and they are correct. The yen is terrible at the moment. I was looking at the, just the history of the yen and the prices of it. In 5 years, it has almost like halved. It's absolutely crazy. Now, I did see some news stories that said that the yen could go up soon, but I have no idea. No idea if that's true or not. As they said, because the Japan are putting up interest rates, allegedly that might increase the yen value. I don't know. I am many things. I am not an expert in the yen and how those things works. If I did, I would not be an English teacher. I would be a stock trader. But our next news story coming out of Japan is from Tokyo Zoo. Now, if you haven't heard already, Tokyo Zoo has 2 very cute pandas, but they are going to be returned to China in the next couple of months. Is this December 23rd? No, I haven't got the date that these pandas are going back, but very, very soon they're going to be sent back to... here it is, January 25th. So on January 25th, these cute little pandas are going to be sent back from Japan to China, to their home, to live where they should. Now, because of this has seen an influx in people going to view the pandas before they disappear. There's even been a 4-hour long wait at the zoo just to see these pandas. Now, because of this, the zoo in question in Tokyo have decided to install a 1-minute viewing time. After that, they kick you out and make you leave, and you have to either go queue again, or that's it. That's your time to view the pandas over. I have to say, if I want to go and look at a panda and pay the zoo entry fee, I certainly want to look at it for more than 1 minute. That seems incredibly quick. Just going like, right, you walk through to have a look at the panda, someone's got a stopwatch just going, that's your minute, get out of here, leave, go. I mean, what if they're sleeping as well? That's an awful 1 minute wasted just to see a couple of pandas sleeping. Yeah, I don't think I will go to that at all. I have been to a zoo in Japan. I've been to Fukuoka Zoo, and I did have a very nice time. No, there were no pandas though, so very, very disappointed compared to this. But I wasn't rushed around by some Japanese person with a stopwatch forcing me to leave after 1 minute because the queues were getting too long. So if you want my advice over the Christmas period, if you want to go to a zoo, go to Fukuoka Zoo and not the zoo in Tokyo, because I feel like you'll have a much better time. It will be much more relaxed, and you can see the beautiful Tsushima Yamaneko, which is Tsushima's famous wild cat. There's only a few of them are in the world, and they're in Fukuoka, Tsushima, and another island has a similar cat, which I can't remember the name of their island because it's not as important as the one that I live on, which is beautiful Tsushima. Has that island had a video game based on it? No, it hasn't. Or I don't think so anyway, because I can't remember the name. I think it's what's it called? It doesn't matter. Not important. It's not as good as Tsushima. It's probably a crappy island. I bet the population's lower than Tsushima. Who cares? If it's not Tsushima, I don't want to know. Now, speaking of things going to China and not going to China, the pandas are returning to China, as are the Chinese people. You see, recently, the Prime Minister made a few comments about Taiwan and China that pissed off the Chinese government, and because of this, they advised Chinese people not to visit Japan. And it has affected a lot of hotels, this not happening. My friend who works in a hotel, they had a ridiculous amount of Chinese booking cancelled. It was into the millions of yens of cancellation in bookings, into the hundreds of thousands of US dollars in hotel rooms cancelled. So it is affecting some people. But despite the Chinese not visiting Japan at the moment, there has been a 10.4 increase in people coming to Japan since last November. These people are traveling from all over the world. There is no one set country which has seen a bigger increase than most, but a lot of people are coming to Japan at the moment because the yen is very, very cheap, and Japan seems to be very popular at the moment. Everyone seems to want to come here, try the food, see what it's like, and see what's up, probably because Google Translate is out and people can now use it to communicate as they go around and see the lovely place of Japan. Which I think this is especially funny, the fact that tourists have been up 10.6% since last year, because literally all I have seen from TikTok recently since announcing that that Chinese people aren't coming to Japan, every biggest tourist place, I've seen loads of videos of people going, oh god, look how quiet Osaka is now without all of the Chinese people around. Oh god, isn't it lovely? It's fantastic. Everywhere is so quiet now. And it's like, well, that doesn't seem right, does it? Because tourism is actually up since last year. But I've seen so many videos of people walking through busy tourist places where it's still busy, and they're like, oh god, it's so much quieter now that the Chinese aren't here. Isn't it lovely? And it's like, huh? That seems impossible, because the tourism is up 10%. I think people just like to make videos and shit on other countries because they've got nothing better to do with their time. But there we go. That's, I think, our last news story for today. I hope you like the podcast today. If you are watching for the first time, I'm using a brand new teleprompter to make my videos with, and I think hopefully it's made the quality much better because I'm looking at the camera and I'm constantly looking down at my screen. That is all of my news stories for today. So just what's been going on with me. We're getting very close to the end of the school year, which is fantastic. I think everyone needs a break. All my students are a little bit tired. I'm tired, and it's getting close to that beginning of the new year happiness. Everyone seems a little bit in a good mood. They're ready to get their Christmas money, and we're going to go from there. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to do a little bit of traveling for about a week or so, which will be nice. I should get some nice pictures of lovely Japan. I'm going to take my camera around with me and take some pictures. What else has been going on? I just got this new teleprompter, which I mentioned earlier, and tried to set it all up and get it going. Let me tell you something. You know when you watch the YouTube videos of people getting new tech and they pull it out the box and they go, oh God, it's just so easy to set up and use. It's you just plug it in and you go. You just clip it in. It's so easy. Let me tell you something. This was not. I got the newer teleprompter. It's like newer XL blah 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 blah. I don't know all the codes for it, but it's got a monitor sort of built into it, and you use it from there. It is actually very good once you get it going, but to set it up, oh good lord, it was nothing short of a nightmare, and I am a bit worried about the build quality. I don't know how long it's going to last. It certainly could be improved in a few places, but as of right now, it's okay. The areas that I'm a little bit worried about it are the bit that I clip my camera on is very fiddly and very, I don't know, I just don't feel like that's going to last forever. I also, which I'm not sure if this is my computer or if it is the software, I took me ages to get it running off the computer. And the weird thing about this is the second monitor is meant to run off the power system from your laptop. And I've had problems with these systems before where at work we have some of these USB monitors that you plug into. I can never get them working with my computer. The only way I can get them to work is with a good old-fashioned HDMI cable. Now, the monitor that came with the teleprompter only has a micro HDMI cable. Now I have an adapter for a HDMI cable, but let me tell you something. Could I find it when I was trying to do this? Absolutely no, I couldn't. And what made it even worse is I have had this adapter in my bag for 3 years. It has been with me everywhere that I've been because I've said one day I'm going to use... Ooh, the scary ghost is back and it's switching off my light. There we go, that's better. This scary ghost does this sometimes. It just switches off my light and it's very, very scary. But where was I? I have a micro HDMI adapter, which I had in my bag for ages, 2 or 3 years. And about 2 weeks ago, I took it out of my bag and put it in with all my other cables because I thought, you know what? I haven't needed this for the last 2 years. I'm not going to need it now. What happens? I go and buy this teleprompter. I need a micro HDMI adapter. And let me tell you something. Could I find it today? No, I couldn't. And I was losing my fucking mind trying to find this thing. I was going through bags. I was going through everything. And I've been going, I've had this in my bag for 2 years. 2 goddamn years. Couldn't find it. Losing my mind. And eventually I found it right at the bottom of it. I plug it in and it works perfectly. It's a little bit weird getting used to all the orientation of it, but it's working very well at the moment. So far, I'm very happy. I would say out of 10, how happy am I with it at the moment? I would give it a 5 out of 10 for now because it's working. If it breaks in the next couple of months, then I will give it a 0 out of 10. So I am not too sure. I'm not going to return it. Let's put it that way. It's good enough to keep at the moment. Am I 100% happy with it? No. But we shall see. And that's the end of the podcast for today. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. I hope you, if you're planning on coming to Japan soon, please come on down. We'd like to see you, and so would all the hotels, because they have been losing money because the Chinese aren't here, but somehow there's still a 10% rise in people coming to Japan. I don't know how they do it, how they factor in these figures. I don't know. Although I will say, when I think about it, it said figures for November. I'm trying to think, when did the when did the Japanese government? When did they say? When did the Chinese government say not to come to Japan? Because it might. I don't think it was right at the beginning of November. It might have been halfway through. So chances are the effect maybe didn't take place yet. Oh, we've worked it out. We've worked out why November is high. So maybe December will be low. We shall see in the next couple of days. When those figures come out, I shall let you know. But that's the end of the podcast for today. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day wherever you are. Don't forget, I've got the second part of my writing of the Yajo coming up in the next week's episode. That is I think one of my best stories, so make sure you subscribe to watch that. And if you haven't already, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video, and goodbye. Have a good day.